I guarantee it is the number one factor when it comes to dudes getting their heart crushed, their one-itis leaving them, whether you're married or not, whether there's kids in the picture or not. Hypergamy does not care if you've made babies. Hypergamy does not care, fellas, if you took 3 years off to raise the kids at home and gave up your business idea or whatever so she could go and become a lawyer or a judge or something like that. Hypergamy cares about none of those things.
Got a crazy video for you today.
She's not yours, just your turn. A woman should be a complement to your life, not the focus.
Do the work.
Women do not care about your struggles. They hang out at the finish line and they pick the winners. What's up, my brothers from another mother? Gentlemen, I've established the number one reason why you guys screw up in your marriages and your relationships. Some of you are not going to want to hear this truth, but it is the truth. It is cold. It is hard. It does not care about your feelings or any ego investments you've had and any lies, more specifically comforting lies you've been told your entire life by family, religion, culture, and all that sort of stuff. And it is quite simply, the clock is ticking down. Women leave men, or tend to leave men, specifically, when you stop chasing excellence. I've seen this especially in my coaching calls, talking to guys with their divorces. These guys were top shelf men. Usually happens in their early 20s. They signed up for a marriage contract that they don't understand because family or something encouraged them to do it. So they blindly march into a slaughterhouse not understanding what they're doing, and something happens. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not their fault. Maybe they lose their job, they get injured, they can't work, they go on disability. Other times they just get lazy and they stop chasing excellence. I've heard stories, as an example, of very, very attractive men and women in their early 20s that were both top of their game. You know, women tend to peak, their sexual market value peak is around their early 20s, 22, 23, let's say, whereas men, it can tend to peak in their late 30s if they've done the work in their life. And they get married and they have their 2.1 kids. 12 years go by, they're into their early 30s. And all of a sudden, dude who was maybe, you know, the Chad linebacker from the football team, and she was the smoking hot valedictorian, the cheerleader, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But they're both the two power, you know, the power couple who were going places according to their graduating classes. She ends up getting her degree, becoming a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, whatever. She climbs the corporate ladder to the top, and he does not. Her income is significantly more than his. Maybe it's double his. Could only be a third more than his, but it's significantly more than what he makes. Now, a lot of people will chime in the comments and said, Rich, you're wrong. I've been married for 10 years and, you know, my husband is a stay-at-home man and he's raised the kids and I go to work and I do everything. Okay, there's two caveats to that. One, the clock is generally ticking down to the divorce or the breakup at some point, because women really don't have a lot of patience or attraction for guys that do not chase excellence in their life and work on putting some kind of dent in the universe. And two, if she doesn't have the option to leave because she's not particularly attractive, that wealth might be annoying her. The fact that she's making the bank and he's not, and he's somewhat of a liability in her eyes. Whereas it's okay the other way around. It's okay for women not to make money and men to be the breadwinners. Men don't leave women because they're not breadwinners. It doesn't happen, right? I've never heard of a story where a guy's like, I'm divorcing my wife because, you know, I make twice as much money as her. I've never had that conversation. I've had, you know, my wife got unattractive and pulled the pin on the fat grenade and got really big. And, you know, this 25-year-old that's giving me all this attention and wants me all the time seems to have the apple of my eye sort of thing. I've had those conversations. I've never had the other conversation where dude is like, I'm leaving because she doesn't have any money. I've had issues with guys saying she's broke or she's very, very bad with money or she's dragged the family into debt, which can be problematic. But that's not an issue of chasing excellence. That's really just a money management issue, which is a different subject. But women do not have patience for men if their SMV is high enough that do not chase excellence in their life. I guarantee it is the number one factor when it comes to dudes getting their heart crushed, their one-itis leaving them, whether you're married or not, whether there's kids in the picture or not. Hypergamy does not care if you've made babies. Hypergamy does not care, fellas, if you took 3 years off to raise the kids at home and gave up your business idea or whatever so she could go and become a lawyer or a judge or something like that. Hypergamy cares about none of those things. It's just not particularly interested. If her SMV, meaning her sexual marketplace value for those guys that are newer here, is high enough and enough time has passed and she has not seen an improvement in your ambition or you having the ability to get things done, I guarantee the clock's ticking or you're on the way out right now or have been out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Go in the comments. Take me to task. Let me hear what you have to say. What have you learned? I mean, if you got some advice, chime in. Let's hear it. I want to hear what you've got to say. You know, the other thing too is women do have patience for men that haven't done anything in their 20s. They will be patient. As long as you exhibit or express ambition and some competency skills and going out there to get something done to chase excellence, then they will have the patience for you as you guys kind of build up together. You know, as they sort of say, you know, we build the Twin Towers together, you know, the two of us together. Oh, I love him and he loves me and we're perfect and we build this life together. They're patient for that. They're willing to be patient in that circumstance or that environment. But if you've been together for a long period of time, or let's say you're divorced and you're a single guy and you're trying to re-enter the sexual marketplace, you're 40 plus years old, and you're trying to woo a 28-year-old or something like that. If you've done nothing with your life, if you've not achieved anything, any sort of competency skills or put a little dent in the universe, made some bank, you know, having muscles is not enough at that point in time. Okay, you got to have some bank. You got to have some ability to provide and provision, you know, from that scenario. They just don't have patience for guys in that scenario. It really boils down to, gentlemen, and this is the best ROI you're going to get in your life anyway for yourself, is, are you a man on some purpose? You have a vision for something. Are you executing on it? Are you doing something to go close to that goal? Are you hitting that goal? Are you creating new goals as you achieve that goal? Chase excellence, not women. I've said this so many times on my channel. I've heard other guys try to rip me off on this line. It's quite simple. It just became so obvious to me going through so many of these calls. Also, it's one of the things I noticed when Sean and I on the Before the Trainwreck series were talking to guys. It came up quite a few times there as well. So your best ROI, gentlemen, because women don't stick around and wait for an incompetent man that does not chase excellence, that gets lazy, sits on a couch, does nothing, but, you know, maintains his fantasy league football team and doesn't do anything in the real world for himself or the family if he's married. So if you want a guarantee, there are none, but if you want to have a higher probability of success, especially for those TradCon fellas in there that are deciding to march into the slaughterhouse of marriage and what could potentially end up in family law or divorce court, as 50-odd% of marriages end in that scenario anyway, then make sure that you stay on a purpose. Make sure you are chasing excellence and you're doing the work. Because even if it doesn't work out, even if she bounces on you, higher value guy shows up, as long as you're on a purpose, you're doing something of significance, and you're able to make some bank along with making muscles and money, all that sort of stuff, you'll have options. And that's what you need, fellas. You need options. You limit your options when you get lazy. You limit your options when you don't chase excellence. That's how the cookie crumbles. It's a cold, hard, uncomfortable truth that nobody really wants to hear. There's always somebody that gets mad when I say it. I don't really care. I've said it enough times now, but it is required reminding. It is a required statement that all guys need to understand and accept. Anyway, go out there, fellas, chase excellence. If you're surrounded by losers, if you're surrounded by 5 broke, fat, dumb people doing nothing, I guarantee you will be the 6th. You go out there and up your social circle, find some better people to hang around with and influence you, hold you accountable to becoming a better man yourself, the chances of you becoming better are significantly higher. So go out and do that. A lot of guys ask me, where do I find people like that so I can get rid of the losers? I got a community of men. It's called the 1%, top shelf gentlemen, working on becoming the best version of themselves.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.